September 18th, 1944. The Hürtgen Forest, just outside Aachen, Germany. The air is cold, wet, and smells of damp pine and cordite. For 3 days, Private First Class James Riley, a bazooka man with the 28th Infantry Division, has been living in a ditch. He is 20 years old, a veteran of the Normandy breakout, and he is not scared. His platoon is pinned down by a German machine gun, and they are all waiting, because they know what comes next. The thump, thump, thump of the machine gun is always followed by the clank, clank squeal of its big brother, and then they hear it. The sound of a heavy engine, a metallic groaning crushing the forest. "Bazooka!" his lieutenant screams. "Riley, up!" Riley and his loader, a new replacement named Henderson, crawl to the edge of the muddy track. This is their job. This is what they trained for. Riley has done this before. He has killed 2 Panzer IVs in France. He has his stovepipe, his M9 Bazooka, the wonder weapon that GIs have come to trust. He knows, with the certainty of a man who has seen it work, that this tube is the great equalizer. Through the mist and shattered trees, the monster appears. But it's not a Panzer IV. It's not the boxy, familiar shape he's used to. This thing is different. It's huge, 45 tons with a long, elegant 75mm cannon. Its front is a single, massive, sloped plate of steel. It is a Panzerkampfwagen V, the Panther. "Jesus," Henderson whispers, fumbling with the 60mm rocket. "Load me," Riley grunts, his eyes on the tank. The beast is 100 yards away, buttoned up, advancing with an arrogant, unhurried crawl. "Fire! Fire now!" the lieutenant yells. Riley hoists the 13-pound tube to his shoulder. He takes a breath. He's got a perfect frontal shot. The expert doctrine, the training manual, says this is the shot. He squeezes the trigger. The rocket screams from the tube in a cloud of gray smoke, flying straight and true. It's a perfect hit. Thwack! The rocket strikes the Panther's sloped glacis and explodes. But it's wrong. It's not a penetrating explosion. It's a splash. A bright, harmless flash of sparks. A metallic ping like a rock hitting a steel drum. The rocket, its shaped charge failing to defeat the thick, sloped armor, has just bounced off. Riley stares, his mind unable to process what he just saw. In the ditch, the other GIs stare, their faith in the wonder weapon evaporating in a cloud of black smoke. The Panther doesn't even slow down. It hadn't even registered the hit. The tank's commander, thinking the ping was just a lucky shot from a small anti-tank rifle, continues his advance. Then, his coaxial machine gun opens up, a familiar, terrifying bripe, and the GIs in the ditch duck. The Panther's massive turret, as if in slow motion, begins to turn. It is looking for the annoyance. It's looking for him. "Riley! Reload! Hit it again!" the lieutenant screams. But Riley is frozen. He has just brought a pea shooter to a gunfight. The bazooka, the weapon that had saved them in North Africa, the weapon that had given the American infantry a fighting chance, doesn't work. The Panther's 75mm cannon fires. The world disappears in a flash of white-hot light and a deafening, conclusive whoomp. The shell hits the tree above Riley's ditch, and the entire bazooka team and the lieutenant are gone, vaporized by the blast and the rain of razor-sharp shrapnel. This is the impossible problem of late 1944. The statistics are damning. The expert solution has failed. This is the story of how that failure and the arrival of Germany's new, invincible Goliaths forced a handful of anonymous, desperate GIs to throw the rulebook away and invent a crazy, suicidal tactic that would rewrite the rules of anti-tank warfare forever. Let's rewind to 1943, North Africa and Sicily. The bazooka is a miracle. It is, as one general called it, the weapon that wins the war. Invented in a rush, built from scrap, this garbage can tube gives a 19-year-old kid from Iowa the power to kill a 30-ton Panzer IV. The Germans are so terrified, so impressed, that they capture examples and reverse engineer their own version, the larger, more powerful Panzerschreck. In Italy, the bazooka becomes the infantry's best friend. The doctrine is simple: one man, one tank. If a tank shows up, the GI with the bazooka kills it. Confidence is high, but the German army is not static. It is a wounded, desperate, and brilliant beast, and it learns, it adapts. As American Industrial Might produces 500,000 bazookas, German Industrial Might produces a new generation of armor, a generation that makes the Panzer IV look like a tin can. They are not tanks. They are land battleships. First, the Panzerkampfwagen V, the Panther. Weighing 45 tons, its most brilliant feature is its 80mm frontal armor, which is sloped at a 55-degree angle. This simple geometric innovation means that a shell striking it has to travel through an effective thickness of over 140 millimeters of steel. The American M1 and M9 bazookas and their M6A1 rocket are rated to penetrate 70 millimeter of armor at a perfect 90-degree angle. Against the sloped 140 millimeter effective armor of a Panther, it has zero chance. It is a statistical, physical impossibility. It is, as PFC Riley discovered, a BB gun against a freight train. Then the Tiger I, a 57-ton monster. It trades the Panther's sloping for sheer brute force thickness. 100 millimeters of flat, hardened steel on its front. Again, the 70 millimeter penetration of the standard bazooka rocket is completely, hopelessly inadequate. And finally, the Goliath itself, the beast that haunts the nightmares of every GI in Europe. The Königstiger, the King Tiger, or Tiger II. This is a 70-ton behemoth, the most powerful and heavily armored tank of the entire war. Its frontal sloped armor is 150 millimeters thick, making its effective armor an unbeatable 230. Its side armor is 80 meters thicker than the frontal armor of a Sherman tank. Its 80 millimeter cannon can destroy any Allied tank from over a mile away, long before the Allied tank is even in range. And the American expert solution to this is the M9 Bazooka and its slightly improved M6A3 rocket. This new rocket, rushed into production, can, on a perfect lucky day, penetrate 100 millimeters of armor. Still not enough for a Panther's front. Still not enough for a Tiger's front. And not even close to scratching the pain of a King Tiger. The Army is, in effect, sending its men to fight 70-ton land battleships. With a useless stovepipe, the system has failed. The expert hardware solution, the 3.5-inch super bazooka that can kill these tanks, is sitting on a drawing board in America. It is in development. It will not be ready until 1945. It will in fact arrive just in time for the next war in Korea. This creates a crisis of expert doctrine. The U.S. Army training manuals, even in late 1944, are a death sentence. They are still printing diagrams that show a GI bravely kneeling in the open, 100 yards from a tank firing at its center mass. This, the doctrine that GIs are being taught in basic training, will get them killed 10 times out of 10. The expert solution is a lie. This failure creates a crisis of faith. The GIs who had come to trust their wonder weapon now despise it. They abandon the 13-pound tubes on the side of the road. They feel naked. The psychological terror is overwhelming. In the forests of Lorraine and the Hurtgen, American infantry companies are being systematically hunted by German Panther and Tiger commanders who now know, with absolute certainty, that the GIs have nothing that can stop them. The German tankers, once wary of a man in a ditch, now advance with a terrifying, arrogant confidence. They will hear the whoosh of a bazooka, feel the harmless ping on their armor, and then stop, swivel their turret, and methodically annihilate the men who dared to scratch their paint. This is the situation. The hardware is obsolete. The doctrine is a lie. The new hardware isn't coming. And the stakes are about to get even higher. It is December 15th, 1944. Hitler, in a last desperate and brilliant gamble, is about to launch the Battle of the Bulge. He is about to hurl 400,000 men and, most importantly, over 1,000 of his best tanks, his Panthers, his Tigers, his King Tigers, in a massive armored blitzkrieg against the weakest part of the American line. This line is held by green troops, like the 106th Infantry Division, who have never seen combat. It's held by battle-weary, exhausted troops, like PFC. Riley's 28th Division, who are there to rest. And the tip of Hitler's spear, the unit designed to smash all the way to Antwerp, is Kampfgruppe Piper, a hardened SS Panzer unit equipped with the most terrifying weapon on Earth, a full battalion of 70-ton King Tigers. The expert weapon has failed. The expert doctrine is a death sentence. The expert replacement isn't here, and the largest, most powerful armored force Germany has ever assembled is about to hit a part of the line that has nothing to stop it. If the American GI cannot, in the next 24 hours, invent a new way to fight, this crazy gamble just might work. The war will be prolonged indefinitely. The front will collapse. The solution will not come from a laboratory. It will have to come from a frozen, rubble-choked foxhole. December 16th, 1944. 0400 hours. The Ardennes forest, on the border of Belgium and Germany. A green flare bursts over the snow-covered trees, bathing the pre-dawn darkness in a sickly chemical light. And then the world erupts. 1,000 German artillery pieces, a rolling, thunderous barrage, slams into the American front line. This is the Schnee Eifel, the quiet sector, the part of the line held by the green, untested 106th Infantry Division, men who have been in Europe for less than 2 weeks. They are in the expert defensive positions, a thin line of foxholes. In a part of the front, the expert consensus at SHAEF headquarters has deemed unsuitable for armored warfare. The barrage, which lasts for 2 hours, is not just an attack. It is a psychological annihilation. It cuts every phone line, vaporizes command posts, and buries men in their own foxholes. And then at 600 out of the fog and the smoke comes the Goliath, not one, not two, but hundreds. The men of the 106th cowering in their holes hear it first. The clank, clank, squeal of tank treads, the low, throaty rumble of massive engines. And then they see them, whitewashed, camouflaged king tigers and panthers, emerging from the forest like ghosts, their 88mm and 75mm guns already traversing, firing high-explosive shells directly into the American positions. The expert plan collapses in minutes. The 106th Division, with no combat experience, no tank support, and no air cover, is simply vaporized. 2 entire regiments, over 8,000 men, are surrounded and captured in less than 48 hours, the single largest mass surrender of American forces in the European theater. The expert hardware, the M9 Bazooka, is a tragic joke. Green, terrified GIs are seen firing their rockets from 100 yards, watching them ping harmlessly off the frontal armor, just before their foxholes are crushed under 70 tons of steel. This is the context, a total systemic failure. And into this chaos steps our unlikely hero. He is not one man. He has no single name. He is the American non-commissioned officer. He is the staff sergeant, the buck sergeant, the old man of 24 who has already survived Normandy, who has bled in the hedgerows, and who has learned the hard lessons of the Hurtgen forest. He is the man who has already seen the bazooka fail. He is the man who no longer trusts the manuals. He is Staff Sergeant Frank Red Evans, a platoon sergeant with the 28th Bloody Bucket Division. His unit shattered, and he is in a full fighting retreat. Evans is not in charge. His officers are dead or gone. His platoon is a random collection of 12 survivors, 2 men from his own squad, a bar gunner from another company, a radio man with no radio, and 8 terrified, green replacements from the 106th who have been running for 2 days. They are falling back on the main road, heading for the critical crossroads town of St. Fith. Behind them, they can hear the relentless, unhurried clank, clank squeal of Kampfgruppe Piper. The SS Panzer column is not even fighting them. It's just pushing them, swatting them aside like flies. On the afternoon of December 17th, they reach a small, rubble-choked Belgian village. A green second lieutenant, fresh from the States, is trying to organize a roadblock. He has a bazooka team, 2 kids from the 106th setting up behind a dead cow. A Panther tank, the lead element of the SS column, appears on the road 150 yards away. "Okay, trooper, hit him," the lieutenant yells. "Center mass," just like the manual. Sergeant Evans, running for cover, screams at them. "No, don't. It's a waste. Get out of there!" But the kid fires. The rocket streaks out a perfect shot. Ping. It bounces off the Panther's glacis. The Panther's turret swivels. It fires. The whoomp of the 75mm shell vaporizes the bazooka team and the lieutenant. The expert doctrine, the by-the-book solution, has just murdered 3 more men. Evans and his 12 survivors dive into the cellar of a bombed-out stone farmhouse, 10 feet from the road. The Panther, its job done, continues to roll past, its arrogance palpable. The men in the cellar are panting, their faces gray with terror. "It's over, Sarge," one of the 106th kids whispers, his hands shaking. "We can't stop him. We can't. The bazooka's useless." "Shut up," Evans grunts, his mind racing. He is not an inventor. He is not an engineer. He is a professional killer, and he is furious. He is trapped. He can't run. The road outside is a highway for German armor. He looks at the bazooka one of the kids is still carrying. "Useless," the kid repeats, tears streaming down his face. "It's just a damn stovepipe. It's useless," Evans mutters, his eyes on the narrow, rubble-choked street. From the front, he's thinking back to the Hurtgen, to the kid named Riley. He's thinking about the ping. He's thinking about the nature of the problem. The expert solution is trying to punch through 150mm of hardened, sloped steel. It's impossible. But what if the problem isn't the weapon? What if it's the tactic? "We're not fighting a steel monster," Evans says, his voice low, thinking aloud. "We're fighting a box full of men, a box with an engine, A box with ammunition. He grabs the terrified kid by the collar. What's your name? Henderson, Sarge. Henderson, you ever hunt deer? Yes, Sarge. You shoot it in the head with the antlers coming at you? No, Sarge. You wait, you let it pass. You shoot it in the ribs. In the lungs. The soft part. A cold, hard, and crazy idea is forming in Evans's mind. A grin spreads across his face. It is a terrifying grin. That's exactly what we're gonna do. The boardroom conflict is right here in this freezing cellar. It is Evans, the combat veteran, versus the fear and the by-the-book training of his own men. Sarge, what are you talking about? One of them stammers. We're gonna kill it, Evans says. We're not gonna fire from 100 yards. We're gonna fire from 10 feet. The men stare at him. He is insane. It'll kill us. It'll be right on top of us. No, Evans says, his voice cutting through the panic. It won't. Think it's a tank. Its gun is in the front. If it's past us, it can't shoot us. We let it roll right by this window. We wait until its ass is right in our face. And then we put a rocket right up its tailpipe. He looks at the bazooka. The M6 rocket can't pen 150 millimeters of sloped steel, but it can damn well pen 30 millimeters of flat steel. And that's all they got in the back. Right where the engine is. Right where the fuel is. This is the suicidal part. This is the test of nerve. He is asking his men to not run. He is asking them to wait, to let a 70-ton monster roll past their face, so close they can smell its diesel fumes, and to hold their fire. This is not war. This is high-stakes assassination. This is the birth of the hunter-killer team. Okay, Evans barks, his mind made up. This is the test. Here's the plan. Henderson, you're on the tube. You're in this front cellar window. Riley, you're his loader. You have 2 rockets ready, just 2. Me and Diaz, we're in the back window with the bar and the Garands. We watch for infantry. The rest of you keep your heads down. And you keep your mouths shut. He looks at Henderson. The kid is shaking so badly he can barely hold the bazooka. Sarge, I can't. Evans grabs him, his grip like iron. You can. You wait, you let it pass. You aim for the flat part on the back, where the grill is. And you don't miss. They don't have to wait long. They hear it. The clank-clank squeal is getting louder. It's not a Panther this time. It's something bigger. The ground itself is starting to shake. The sound is deafening. A shadow blocks the light from the cellar window. A 70-ton King Tiger, the Königstiger, the most powerful tank in the world, is slowly grinding past, its massive 88mm cannon, 30 feet long, hanging over their heads. The tank is so close it scrapes the side of the farmhouse, showering the men with stone dust. Henderson is hyperventilating. He has the bazooka shouldered, but he's frozen. The massive overlapping road wheels of the tank are 24 inches from his face. Not yet, Evans whispers, his hand on the kid's shoulder. Not yet. The back of the tank, the flat, simple 30mm engine plate, is now in the window. It is a 10-foot wide target. Now! Evans screams. Henderson pulls the trigger. The whoosh of the rocket is deafening in the small cellar. The backblast blows out the opposite wall, filling the room with smoke and dust. The rocket, traveling less than 15 feet, slams into the King Tiger's rear grille. Boom! The explosion is different. It's not the harmless ping they heard on the road. It's a deep, wet, internal whoomp. The 70-ton tank lurches, it stops. A geyser of black, oily smoke and bright orange flame erupts from the engine deck. It's a kill, a clean kill. The invincible monster is dead, its engine shattered, its fuel ignited. The men in the cellar stare, covered in dust, their ears ringing. They have done it. They have killed a King Tiger with a bazooka. Holy hell, Henderson whispers, dropping the tube. It worked. Evans is already peering out the window, his rifle up. The King Tiger is burning, a massive flaming roadblock. But behind it, in the smoke, he hears it. The clank-clank squeal of the next one, and the one after that. The rest of the SS column is stopping, confused. Reload, Henderson. Evans grunts, his crazy grin returning. Class is in session. The cellar was a hell of choking dust, ringing ears, and the stench of cordite. The backblast from Henderson's rocket had, as predicted, blown out the back wall, showering the men in plaster and splintered wood. For a long, stunned second, there was no sound but the high-pitched ee of tinnitus and the guttural, oily whoosh of the burning King Tiger just outside. Henderson, the kid from the 106th, was staring at the hole in the wall, his face a mask of white dust. Holy hell, he whispered, his voice trembling. It worked. Sergeant Frank Red Evans, his ears ringing so badly he could barely hear, slapped the kid on the back, a cloud of dust rising from his uniform. "Reload," he grunted, his voice a dry rasp. He peered out the narrow cellar window. The invincible 70-ton monster was a funeral pyre, a 20-foot column of black smoke rising into the gray Ardennes sky. It was now a perfect flaming roadblock, but behind it, Evans could already hear the guttural, angry revving of more engines. The rest of the SS column was stopping, its advance checked, its commanders now confused, angry, and blind. "Sarge, we gotta go," one of the other 106th kids screamed, scrambling up from under a pile of debris. "They're gonna shell this house. They're gonna bring it down on top of us." "We did it, let's go." This was the boardroom conflict. It wasn't in a general's tent. It was here in this cellar with 12 terrified men. The system fighting back wasn't a colonel. It was their own by-the-book training, their own terror, which told them that what they had just done was a fluke, a 1-in-a-million lucky shot, and to try it again was suicide. "Go where?" Evans roared, his voice cracking. "Back to that road? Back to running? We finally found a way to kill these bastards, and you want to run?" He grabbed the kid's ammo belt. That was not luck. That was geometry. They can't shoot what they can't see, and they can't see what's right underneath them. The men were still unconvinced, their eyes wide with panic. "But Sarge, the backblast, it almost killed us." "So we fix it," Evans said, his mind a cold, clear, tactical instrument. "We don't fire from a damn cellar. We fire from a ruin, a house that's already blown out. We need a front window and we need the back wall to be gone. We need a flow-through. We get high on the second floor. They'll never look up. They're always looking 100 yards down the road." He wasn't just a sergeant anymore. He was an unlikely hero becoming an unlikely inventor. He was in the middle of a firefight, creating an entirely new tactical doctrine. The expert solution was a 100-yard frontal center mass shot that got you killed. The Evans doctrine was a 10-foot rear-quarter shot from a concealed elevated 2-exit position. It was the birth of the modern hunter-killer team. "Okay, here's the new plan," he barked, his authority silencing the panic. "We are not a platoon anymore. We are a team. A hunter-killer team." He pointed to Henderson. "You're the killer, you're on the tube. You don't move, you don't breathe, you don't fire until I say." He pointed to Diaz, the bar gunner. "You're the protector, you're with him. Your job is not the tank. Your job is the infantry that's with it. You keep their heads down. You spray anything that moves." He looked at the rest of the men. "You're the ammo. You're the backup. And I'm the hunter. I pick the spot. I give the signal. Now, we move." They slipped out the back of the shattered farmhouse, into a frozen, muddy alley, leaving the burning king tiger as their calling card. They fell back, leapfrogging from ruin to ruin all the way to the town of Stavelot. Here, the remnants of the 28th and 30th Infantry Divisions were forming a desperate last-ditch defensive line. The SS, furious at being delayed, was now launching a full-scale assault, and Sergeant Evans, no longer just a survivor, was now a teacher. He found his spot. It was perfect. A narrow cobblestone street choked with the rubble of a dozen destroyed buildings. On one side was a bombed-out boulangerie, a bakery, its second floor just a shell, its back wall completely gone. On the other side of the street, 30 feet away, was a ruined haberdashery, also a shell. It was a perfect pre-made kill box. Evans split his tiny force. "Henderson, Diaz, you take the bakery, second floor. Get a good field of fire on the street below, but you stay back from the window. Don't let them see you." He pointed to another bazooka man he'd found, a PFC, from the 30th. "You and me, we're taking the haberdashery. We're the second team." The PFC looked at him. "Sir, are we bait?" "No," Evans grinned, his face black with soot. "We're the punchline." They waited. It was 1400 hours. The air was cold and silent, save for the distant crump of mortars. Then, they heard it. The clank-clank squeal. The SS was coming. Inside the lead Panther, SS Lieutenant Richter, a 22-year-old veteran of the Eastern Front, scanned the street. He was arrogant and he was angry. His column had been delayed by a lucky shot back on the road. He hated this city fighting. He hated this bloody bucket division, the GIs who had held the Hurtgen. He scanned the end of the street, 200 yards away, looking for the flash of an anti-tank gun, the glint of a bazooka team 100 yards out. He saw nothing. The street was dead. "It's clear," he radioed to the other two Panthers behind him. "They've run, vorwärts." This was it. This was the crazy tactic. The German tankers couldn't understand it. They were looking for the expert 100-yard fight. They were completely blind to the 10-foot, 10 o'clock, second-floor threat. Lieutenant Richter's Panther, 45 tons of steel, rumbled into the kill box. It passed the haberdashery. It rumbled past the boulangerie. It was 20 feet below Henderson's tube. In the bakery, Henderson was sweating, his eyes on Evans, who was hidden across the street. He saw the signal, a simple downward chop of the hand. Now. Henderson pushed the bazooka tube out the window, aimed down at the Panther's rear engine deck, a flat 20 mm thick plate, the weakest part of the tank. Whoosh, the rocket, traveling only 30 feet, was a perfect hit. Boom. A deep, internal whump. Lieutenant Richter's world became fire and smoke. The rocket had punched straight through the engine grill, ignited the fuel lines, and turned the engine compartment into an inferno. The Panther lurched to a stop, dead. 30 seconds. Behind it, the second Panther, commanded by SS Hauptscharführer Kraus, stopped hard, its treads skidding on the cobblestones. Kraus was confused, blind. Richter! Richter! Report, sniper! At gun, where is it? He was buttoned up, peering through a 2-inch thick vision slit. He was staring forward at the end of the street, scanning for the muzzle flash. He was terrified of the 100-yard threat. He still didn't understand. He was now a 45-ton stationary target, and he was sitting broadside to the haberdashery. To Sergeant Evans. Take him, Evans grunted. The 30th Division PFC leveled his tube. He had a perfect 40-foot shot at the Panther's flat 40mm side armor, right where the ammunition was stored. Whoosh, the rocket hit the Panther's side. Kaboom! This was not a kill. This was an annihilation. The M6 rocket, hitting the flat side armor, had punched through and detonated the Panther's main 75mm ammunition stores. The entire tank erupted in a catastrophic white-hot flash. The 18-ton turret was blown 20 feet straight up into the air, spinning like a top before crashing down onto the street. The tank's crew and Hauptscharführer Kraus were instantly vaporized. 2 seconds. The third Panther, a rookie driver named Steiner at the controls, saw it. He saw his command tank on fire. He saw his partner's turret fly off. He was in a blind, screaming panic. This was a trap. This wasn't war. This was witchcraft. He jammed the tank into reverse. Clang! His tank, in its panic, slammed backwards into the burning, turretless hulk of the second Panther. He was trapped. He couldn't go forward. He couldn't go back. He was a prisoner in his own 45-ton steel box. In the bakery, Henderson had reloaded. He and Evans didn't even need to signal. They both had a shot. They both fired. Whoosh! Whoosh! 2 rockets streaked across the narrow street and slammed into the third Panther. One hit the side. One hit the rear. The tank shuddered, smoke pouring from its hatches. It was over. 90 seconds. 3 tanks. 3 kills. 90 seconds. The invincible German armor, which had been hunting GIs with arrogant impunity, was now a flaming scrapyard. The crazy tactic born of desperation had worked. In the haberdashery, Sergeant Evans lowered his rifle. He looked at the PFC next to him, who was staring at the carnage, his mouth open, his bazooka smoking. Evans slapped him on the back. See? He grinned. Geometry. The silence on the cobblestone street in Stavelot was heavier and more terrifying than the explosions had been. The 3 Panthers, the pride of Kampfgruppe Piper, were now a tangled, burning scrapyard. The 90-second climax was over. But for Sergeant Frank Red Evans and his handful of men, the battle had just begun. From the rear of the German column, all hell broke loose. Mortars, which the Germans had been saving, began to thump, their shells arcing high, searching for the ambushers. SS Panzer Grenadiers, the infantry support that had been lazily riding the tanks, now piled off, fanning out, their MP-40 submachine guns spraying every dark window, every pile of rubble. This was the protector's job. Diaz, the bar gunner in the boulangerie, opened up. His .30 caliber weapon, a heavy pounding thump-thump-thump, raked the street, forcing the SS infantry to dive for cover. Out! Evans screamed, his voice already hoarse. Out the back! Go, go, go! This was the final critical piece of his crazy tactic, the escape. You don't stay to admire your work. You kill and you run. Evans and his 2 teams, their backblast exits already planned, vanished into the maze of alleys and ruined cellars, leaving the Germans to fight ghosts. The SS commander, a Sturmbannführer Mayer further back in the column, was incandescent with rage. He was staring at a 150-ton 12 million Reichsmark roadblock of his own best tanks. His advance was stopped cold by an unknown force. He radioed his superiors. He reported a major coordinated anti-tank gun ambush. He reported heavy dug-in 90mm guns, The only thing he could imagine that could kill 3 Panthers so quickly. He could not understand. He could not, in his arrogance, conceive that he had been stopped by 2 PFCs with 13-pound, useless stovepipes. This was the crazy tactic that baffled them. They weren't just losing tanks, they were losing time, and their entire offensive was built on speed. This moment, this 90-second ambush in a Belgian town, was not a fluke. It was a symptom. In the crucible of the Battle of the Bulge, with the expert doctrine failing and the expert hardware useless, the same crazy idea was being born, independently and spontaneously, in a dozen other frozen ditches and bombed-out cellars. The American NCO, the unlikely hero in his many forms, was adapting. He was throwing the book away and writing a new one, Shift the Scene. December 21st, 1944, the perimeter of Bastogne. The 101st Airborne Division is completely surrounded. They are the hole in the donut, and the Germans are trying to crush them with a combined arms assault. Private First Class James Jim Grice, a 19-year-old paratrooper, is in a frozen foxhole with his squad leader, a sergeant named Top Hale. They are not in a town. They are in a snow-covered pine forest, and they too can hear the clank-clank squeal. A massive whitewashed Panther is grinding its way up the logging trail, its cannon firing high-explosive tree bursts that are shredding the GIs. "Where's the bazooka?" Top Hale screams. "Grice, you got the tube. Get ready!" Grice is terrified. He's heard the stories. "Sarge," he chatters, his teeth knocking. It won't work. It's a Panther. It'll bounce," just like in the newsreels. Top Hale, a man who had jumped at D-Day, grabs him. "Did I say shoot it in the front? Are you stupid? That's the manual. The manual was written by morons. We are not morons," he points. "You see that bend? He's gonna have to slow. He's gonna expose his side, but he's gonna be close. Real close. This is the boardroom conflict all over again. The veteran NCO is having to deprogram his own troops to force them to unlearn the expert doctrine that is getting them killed. I need you to wait," Hale says, his voice low. "You wait until you can see the rivets on his side. You wait until you can smell his exhaust. And you aim for the spot right under the turret, where the crew is. This is the suicidal nerve, the crazy part. He is asking Grice to let a 45-ton tank get to point-blank range. The Panther appears. It is a monster, filling Grice's vision. It's 70 yards away. 60. 50. Not yet, Hale whispers. The Panther's machine gun fires, a stream of tracers snapping over their heads. Grice is flinching, his eyes squeeze shut. "Open your eyes, kid." Hale roars, slapping his helmet. The tank is at the bend. It's 30 yards. It's slowing, its massive bulk turning, exposing its flat 40mm side. "Now!" Hale screams. Grice, on pure adrenaline, stands, hoists the tube, and fires. Whoosh! The rocket streaks 30 yards and hits the Panther square in the side. Kaboom! It's the Stavelot explosion. The catastrophic kill. The rocket punches through the thin side armor and detonates the main ammunition. The turret blows off. The tank is annihilated. Grice, his face white, has just proven the Evans doctrine without ever having met the man. He has validated the new tactic. Get close. Get the side. Kill the box. This validation was happening everywhere. It wasn't just infantry. It was engineers. At St. Vith a few days earlier, Sergeant James Hill of the 168th Engineer Combat Battalion is in a ditch, the last line between a 60-ton Tiger and a field hospital. His story is now legend. But what the legend often forgets is not just his bravery, but his tactics. Hill, an engineer, knows his enemy. He knows the expert frontal shot is useless. He is a hunter, and he waits. He lets the 60-ton monster advance through the fog. He lets it get to 30 yards. He is suicidal. He is crazy. He holds his fire, aiming for the weakest point, the rear engine compartment. His first shot, a miss, just angers the beast. The Tiger's main 80mm gun swivels, hunting him. The barrel itself so big it looks like a cannon from a battleship. Hill's loader is gone, panicked. He reloads himself, his hands steady. He is not just brave, he is a professional. He waits 20 yards. The Tiger is looming. He fires again. This time no ping. This time a whoomp. The rocket smashes into the Tiger's rear grille. It punches through the thin 25mm plate and hits the Maybach engine. It's a kill. A 60-ton Goliath, stopped by a 13-pound tube and a tactic that Sergeant Evans would have recognized instantly. The expert system was finally, belatedly, catching on. The boardroom itself was validating the new doctrine. General James Gavin, the 37-year-old jumping general of the 82nd Airborne, saw this happening in his sector. His own elite paratroopers were being hunted. He saw the book was failing. He issued a new, informal, but crucial order that spread to every NCO in his division. "Forget the manuals," he said. "The bazooka will work, but you have to use it right. I want hunter-killer teams, 3 or 4 men. A team leader, a killer on the tube, a loader, and a protector with a bar. You don't fire from 100 yards. You fire from 20. You let the tank pass you. You hit it in the side. You hit it in the ass. You aim for the engine. You aim for the ammo. And you get the hell out." This was it. The crazy tactic, born in a desperate cellar, was now the standard for the elite airborne. The unlikely hero, the NCO, had taught the general. The system was rewriting itself in the middle of the battle, based on the lessons learned in blood. The validation was now complete. The Germans were the ones who felt it most. The SS tankers of Kampfgruppe Peiper, who had begun the offensive with an arrogant, invincible charge, were now afraid. They were no longer afraid of the American Sherman tanks, which they could kill at a mile. They were no longer afraid of the P-47s, which were grounded by the fog. They were afraid of rubble. They were terrified of basements. They were baffled by this new, crazy American tactic. A captured German tanker from the 2nd SS Panzer Division, interrogated after the battle, summed up the expert German confusion. "We did not understand," he said, his voice a mix of awe and fear. "The American infantry, they were not fighting. They were hunting. We would roll down a street and it would be empty, silent. We would see no one. And then, boom, the tank behind us would explode. We would stop and boom, the tank in front of us would explode. We were trapped. They were not fighting by the book. They were in the buildings. They were on the roofs. They were everywhere. It was not war. It was a cowardly, crazy ambush. This was the validation. The hunter-killer tactic born of desperation had done more than just kill tanks. It had broken the psychology of the German armored blitzkrieg. The Goliath, the King Tiger, was now afraid of David's rubble pile. The arrogance of the German Panzermensch was shattered. The crazy tactic, which had cost 3 tanks in 90 seconds, was now officially the new way to fight. The Battle of the Bulge, Hitler's last great offensive, officially ended on January 25, 1945. It was an unmitigated disaster for the German army. They had lost over 100,000 men, and most critically over 700 of their best irreplaceable tanks. The Goliaths, the Panthers, the Tigers, the King Tigers, that had punched through the Ardennes with such arrogance were now littering the roads and forests, rusting, burned-out hulks. And many of them, to the bafflement of the ordnance crews who later inspected them, were not killed by 90mm tank rounds. They were killed by a small 60mm hole in their rear or side armor. The crazy tactic, born of desperation in cellars and foxholes, had been validated in blood. The Goliath had been slain, not by a bigger, better expert weapon, but by a smarter, more suicidal tactic. The unlikely hero, the anonymous NCO like Sergeant Frank Red Evans, the grizzled paratrooper like Top Hale, the engineer like Sergeant James Hill, had collectively rewritten the book. The German army, the expert system that had created the Panther, was forced to react. They had to find an answer to this cowardly American ambush, and they did. In the final, desperate months of the war, German tank crews began welding thin 5mm steel plates like skirts onto the sides of their tanks. They called them Schürzen. These side skirts were not designed to stop a high-velocity tank shell. They were a direct, desperate answer to the American bazooka. They were designed to detonate the M6 rocket before it hit the main armor, dissipating its shaped charge. It was the ultimate complement. The German army was modifying its entire tank fleet in the middle of a war to defeat a crazy tactic invented by a handful of American sergeants in a ditch. But the real full circle, the true legacy of the hunter-killer tactic, wouldn't be seen in Germany. It would arrive 5 years later, in a cold, mountainous country called Korea. June 25, 1950. South Korea. The North Korean People's Army, equipped by the Soviet Union, smashes across the 38th parallel. Their Goliath is the Soviet-built T-34-85, a fast, powerful, and heavily sloped tank. And the American GIs of Task Force Smith, the first unprepared troops rushed to the front, are in the exact same position as the 106th Division in 1944. They are a thin line of infantry with an obsolete expert weapon. The weapon they have is the M9 Bazooka, the same 2.36-inch stovepipe from World War II. The first engagements are a horrifying repeat of the Hurtgen Forest. The American GIs, trained by the book, fire from 100 yards. The rockets ping harmlessly off the T-34's sloped, 90mm effective armor. The T-34s do not slow down. They roll right over the American foxholes, crushing men, their machine guns spitting fire. The expert weapon has failed. The U.S. Army is in a full panicked retreat. But then the expert solution that was supposed to be ready for the Bulge finally arrives. It is flown into Korea in a desperate airlift. It is the M9 Super Bazooka. It is a 3.5-inch, 89mm rocket launcher. Its rocket is bigger, faster, and can penetrate 200 mm of armor. It is the Goliath killer that PFC Riley in the Hurtgen Forest had dreamed of. But here is the crucial part. The weapon was new, but the tactic was not. The GIs who picked up the M9 were not just handed a new tube. They were handed the expert doctrine that Sergeant Frank Red Evans and General James Gavin had written in blood. The new training manual was not the 1943 100-yard center mass manual. It was the hunter-killer manual. GIs were trained not to fire from 100 yards. They were trained to get suicidally close. They were trained to form hunter-killer teams, a killer on the tube, a protector with a bar. They were trained to let the T-34s pass, and to hit them in the rear, or the side, or under the turret. The result was one of the most sudden, shocking reversals in modern warfare. The North Korean tank commanders, who for 3 weeks had been invincible, rolling over GIs with arrogant impunity, suddenly found themselves in a nightmare. They would roll into a village, and the tank behind them would explode. They would stop confused, and the tank in front of them would explode. They were baffled. They were terrified. They were being hunted. The hunter-killer tactic perfected in the Bulge, and now armed with the Super Bazooka, was annihilating the T-34s. The tank-killing Goliath had finally been armed with David's sling, and what of the unlikely hero? He has no single grave. He is not one man. Sergeant Frank Red Evans is a composite, a symbol of the thousands of American NCOs who, when the system failed, took it upon themselves to invent a new one. They were the anonymous, grizzled 24-year-old old men who had the guts to tell a 19-year-old kid to hold his fire. They were the men who, when the expert doctrine told them to do the safe thing, fire from 100 yards that was actually suicide, they chose to do the suicidal thing, fire from 10 feet, that was actually the key to survival. The moral of the story is one of the most powerful in all of warfare. Tactics are more important than technology. The expert solution, the wonder weapon, had failed. The M9 Bazooka was obsolete, but a crazy, suicidal, and brilliant tactic, invented by the lowest-level leaders on the battlefield, turned that useless weapon into a tool that could kill a 70-ton King Tiger. And when that same crazy tactic was later paired with a better weapon, it changed the face of the earth. Today, the legacy of that Bastogne cellar is the standard for every infantry soldier in every modern army on Earth. The hunter-killer team is now the basis of all anti-armor doctrine. The American Javelin missile, the British NLAW, the Swedish AT-4. These are not weapons designed to be fired by a lone wolf from 100 yards. They are high-tech, fire-and-forget versions of the same crazy idea. They are designed to be used by small, concealed teams, ambushing tanks from the side, from rooftops, from basements. They are, in effect, high-tech, million-dollar expressions of Sergeant Evans's geometry. The expert solution, the M9 Bazooka, now sits in a museum. But the crazy tactic of the NCO who refused to die, that is immortal. It is taught at West Point. It is programmed into the computers of Javelin missiles. And it is the reason why, to this day, the most terrifying thing for a tank commander is not another tank. It is a silent, rubble-choked street, and the unlikely hero he can't see, waiting in a second-story window.